And scooting in. We are live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Photo Mish Mash. This one being broadcast live October 23rd, 2019. A million new cameras and some lenses were announced since the last show. We're going to talk about those. Steve is back. Hi, Steve.
Wow, it has been a long time, but it feels like it's been a long time. Good to be back, folks. Thank you for having me.
We'll be talking, Steve, you need a new camera. That's all we'll tease for right now. Right. We're going to be picking it for you. Yeah. And I think you said something like, whatever the chat decides, you will buy and then use. So just hang on for that.
Whoa. Okay. We'll talk about it later.
I'm going to be talking about the Pixel 4, Sony A7RIV. I know it's been out for a while, but it was Mongolia where I first really got to put this camera to its test. So I'm going to be sharing some opinions about both of those. And I mean, to be a little clickbaity, a little click titly, I'm going to say I'm a little underwhelmed with both of them. But we'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. Plus with tons of news, tons and tons of camera news and editing your photos and answering your questions. Steve already said hi. Let's say hi now to the chat room. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sticking around and being here, even though we're not always. Do appreciate all of those folks that have been waiting for the show to return, and we really enjoy it. Even Archer is making an appearance.
Archie. Hey, buddy. Archer.
Archie. Well, you're in my headphones.
Oh,
here, let's check. Hold on.
Archer. Hi, buddy. Hi, Arch. Hi, Arch.
You got him to perk his ears up. Maybe it was just because I was shoving the thing in there deep, you know. He likes that. I honestly didn't bring him down just for the cute one-eyed dog trick. He just showed up on my chair when I was upstairs getting water, and it's pretty rare that he comes down. So I think he was like, I know today's special. It's been a long time since a show. I need to put in my appearance for these people.
Yeah. And he knew that I was back. Uncle Steve was back. So, hi, Arch. God, it's so strange. So for those that have been kind of wondering where I've been or whatever.
Yeah, catch us up, Steve.
Well, so a lot of you know this, but we recently moved from East Tennessee to Cincinnati. So that had just its own crazy challenges and just time to have that happen. Mixed in there was a couple of tours. We did Mongolia. We did Kodiak, Alaska tour. And then you and I went camping after that outside of Fairbanks. We drove north to Prudhoe Bay with Frank Belga, stayed with Frank and Miriam up there. And that was just awesome. And then the big move happened. And then we just had a couple of tours. And so it's just been like one thing after another. Needless to say, this is the first time that I've ever broadcast in my new office. We have painters here. So there's literally a sheet hanging behind these doors right here. There's a living room back there. Stuff is just piled up all over me, and my lighting situation is just a mess. So bear with my very pale skin on this broadcast. But needless to say, it's great to be back. I'm super happy to be here. I've been looking forward to this all week. And I know that there were a couple weeks in there, Toby, where I said, yeah, I'll be able to do Mish Mash again finally. And then something came up. So, yeah.
Yeah. But no, you did. You had a crazy busy summer. We are very excited to have you back. I think we'll have a good run of these shows for a little while. So that's exciting because we both really do enjoy them very much. Very much. I just going to remind you that I got these banners that I can click and use. That this show is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is a fantastic place for you to build a website, a gallery, storefront, personal blog. Whatever you want to do, you can do it at Squarespace. And in fact, you can also set up an awesome mailing system there so you can email out people. And I know it sounds a little old school. Why are you going to email people? You got all these different social medias, Facebook, Instagram. Yeah, well, email doesn't change its algorithm on you every 5 minutes.
Right.
You're in control. You got those people's emails. It's going to land in their inbox. Now, they might delete it, but at least you know it's going to land in their inbox when you send it. Do not discount email as a fantastic way to reach an audience of interested folks in what you've got to say. That's all there. Plus, they just bought another social media site that's going to help you create awesome Instagram stories and TikTok stories and whatever else your heart content. So they're really becoming this full-featured platform for reaching eyeballs, and that's what you want to do. So you could save 10% off your first purchase at squarespace.com/photorectv. And this show is also brought to you by you guys. Chat room that we just said hi to. Most of you are Pen members. If you're watching the show and you're not a Pen member, you are missing out on one of the best photography communities and photography educational sites on the internet. I truly believe that. I'm one of the co-founders along with Steve, David, and Allie. We work really hard to bring you new content every single week. New video, new article. I'm super proud of what we've done over the last couple of years now with it. We're coming up on our full 2-year anniversary very soon.
That's crazy.
We've got some big news coming along with that anniversary. But if you want to learn more, you can go to photorec.tv/pen to learn more. That's PEN, Photo Enthusiast Network. All right. Well, I don't know. What do we got to do now? I've been out of touch.
I just realized that I'm on a private chat. So yeah, I leave for a few weeks and you go all big time. You can flash banners up there. You got the camera on me 24/7. The chat seems to work really well. Like this is very polished. I'm quite impressed. Although I just don't know what I'm doing. So I've been on private chat this whole time. And
what to do with your hands? Yeah, I mean, it's all real polished until I accidentally hit the end broadcast, button in the middle of the show or something like that. So, yeah, we'll see. We're using StreamYard. I was forced to make these changes because the whole Google Hangouts live show system, YouTube just took away. So using this, it is a paid service. I think they have a free version too, but I've been pretty happy with it. It seems to be good. Audio, video quality seems to be good. So yeah, I think it's going really well so far.
I see a lot of comments asking about Ollie now that Archer was on the show. And she's laying next to my desk here taking a nap. And I'll put her on camera before we end broadcast. So
okay.
Get an update on how the girls doing. But she's doing great. Good.
I'm glad people are asking. Let's set some kind of boundaries for this new camera for you. There is a little bit of a backstory. Let's give that to people now so they can think about it, maybe do a little research during the show, and then either if you're watching this after the fact, put it down in the comments down below or the chat. So what is this new camera you need, Steve, or need?
Well, basically, I'm like every camera buyer out there. I want a super high megapixel 4K video, does it all in one camera that I can take to my daughter's wedding in Maui in January not to shoot it, just as a participant or an attendee. And I want it for free. So
Okay.
We bought a new house and I invested in the Hasselblad thing, so I don't have a penny to my name, and so it needs to be free. Well, all kidding aside, so I think the perfect camera for what I'm looking for is like the Olympus Pen F. I've really been eyeballing that thing. I've been looking at some of Fuji's stuff. Would love to pick up like an XT3 or I don't know, XT20, one of those, but even the XF100, what is it, X100F, that would be a nice fit. I'm just something I can kind of hang around my neck and easily carry around and just be kind of inconspicuous, but still get some really good raw images during the event.
Nice.
So I'm looking for the Hasselblad, as convenient as it is for a medium format camera, it's still a pretty big system, and my Canon is, it's a big lens system and stuff. I feel really uncomfortable ever going to a wedding as a guest and having a camera that looks like what the professional wedding photographers are shooting. I just think it makes me feel uncomfortable. I think, they're always looking around the wedding for that Uncle Bill with his professional camera who thinks he's a wedding photographer. So anyway, yeah, I'm just looking for something kind of old school and simple. And like I said, the Olympus Pen F really has my eye. I just don't want to spend $1,200 on something.
Okay. All right. So that's the kind of the upper end of your range, unless it's super exciting. We're going to talk about a camera a little bit later in this broadcast that I think is going to be really tempting to you in a lot of ways. So hang on for that.
Retro looking?
Very.
Oh,
very.
Was it just introduced?
Yes.
I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Okay. All right. So let's try to get this show going because we love talking, but we actually have other things to do sometimes, like run errands. I have to go and get a dozen eggs for Chris before she comes home from work so that she can cook for her potluck tomorrow. I'll be in trouble if I don't do that. So let's get into the week in review. What has gone out on this channel that you may have missed? It is the What is in My Camera Bag 2019/Mongolia edition. It is the most complete look of everything, complete look at everything I take. I totaled it all up. This is $19,000 and 400 some odd cents. No, what was the math is that? $19,400 and a couple of cents worth of camera gear to Mongolia. I talk about how I transport that, show the bags, talk about why it's important that most of that is on my back when I'm going to the country, but not as important when I'm coming home. I did realize after the fact that I forgot one thing in that video. Actually, two. I forgot that I carry spare battery with me for the Sonys, just one, and also a lens cloth. Those two things. So, but otherwise, it is the most complete look. And so that link will be in the show notes right down below this video. Plus, you can just go find it on my channel, along with a spreadsheet that shows you every piece of gear, where to buy it, plus the cost. Plus, what I need to do is add in reviews, because for many of the items in my bag, I have reviewed them at one time or another. Maybe they've even come up in multiple videos and discussions in the past. So I'll put those links in there ASAP so you can look for those complete review videos down the road.
I think I have a lens cloth now in every single pair of pants that I take on a tour, and every jacket that I take on a tour, every sweatshirt pocket that I take on tour, and my backpack's got a number of them.
Nice.
I've just got lens cloths coming out my ears.
That would be awesome if we were out there. We're like, we need a lens cloth. Where's Steve? He's just like a Kleenex box or one of those clowns.
Yeah,
that's good.
For some reason, maybe it's because I don't have an account actually signed up, I'm unable to type responses to some of the comments. But just real quickly, yes, I would consider a used camera. And I think Brian Scanlon somewhere on there said that when he shoots with his X100F, people ask him if it's a toy. I'm hoping to avoid that. And that was actually my one hang up with that camera. I really like it, but it did look, I don't know. I don't mean to use the word cheap. It compared to some of the other stuff that's out there at that price point, I think there's some more substantial looking stuff, but
yeah.
And then there was a question about the pen option too. That is coming. We were just talking about it today. Oh gosh, it's been just so crazy with the tours. And then we are recording September's review, and we're also going to record October's review kind of on the heels of that. I just finished touring for the year. So the good news is my schedule is now really clearing up. I've started shooting homes again, but I'm home and I can do a lot of recordings and stuff like that. So that is coming. So I'm very, very sorry that that's late.
I know most of in our chat understand what the pen option 2 is. Steve, will you tell us just a little bit more?
So pen option 2, what we mean by options is in the Photo Enthusiast Network, we offer image reviews, and we can do that through the Facebook page. We do it here on Mish Mash, but we've got some formal processes by which we can offer reviews. One is on our forum website, option 1. You post pictures on there, and you can do, I don't know, 2 or 3 of them a month, something like that. And we'll get on there and we'll take a look at those and help you with edits and stuff. And then we also do option 2, which is more of a competition, and that's using Professional Photographers of America's 12 elements of a merit photograph, using that standard applied as judges. And really, it's for helping people if they want to take their photography to the next level and enter PPA's image competition, and to really prepare you for that. Even if you don't go that far with it, it really helps you become a better photographer and fine-tune your skills. So we run a competition every month. You submit one image by the 25th of the month, and then we look through those. We pick a top 5, and we pick a winner. It's sponsored by Bay Photo, so you get a prize. It's valued usually around the $200 range. And then at the end of the year, we tally up kind of all the winners, and decide who the photographer of the year is, what's the image of the year, and you get kind of a grand prize for that and a plaque. And it's awesome. We've had some just great participation, and it's been really cool to see people's images just get better and better as the months go on. So what we do is we try to get those recorded right at the beginning of the month for the previous month. But the past couple of months, there's just been a lot of kind of interspersed travel. We're not all on the same trips. We're kind of spreading it out. And so getting people together at times can be a challenge. But we're going to get better at it.
Yeah, those are great. I think they're a fantastic resource for our members. And as you said, I just want to echo, it's just awesome watching our members, grow as photographers and improve.
Yeah.
Real quick, talking about pen, other things that went out. I did a Tuesday tip last week, razor thin depth of field. We really see it when we're shooting macros, when you get in close to your subject. But in this tip, this article that I wrote, I talk a little bit about at our telephoto distances and how thin your depth of field can get there as well, which really can impact. If you go to a zoo and you're shooting at like 400 millimeters, you might have this awesome shot of the lion, but you might not have as much in focus as you want. So it talks a little bit about that. That sparked kind of a discussion about hyperfocal distances, which can be really confusing. And here's my quick reply when you start to think and talk about hyperfocal distances. The number of shots that I have ruined because I didn't choose the perfect depth of field is very, very, very small. The number of shots I've ruined because my composition stinks or I missed the moment is much, much higher. That ratio is just like this. Depth of field perfectly, moment, composition, number of shots up here. So don't stress about it. But it is nice to start to get kind of some ideas and some basic numbers in your head when you're starting to set up so that you know ballpark what aperture would be best for this scene. And so I'll be back in a future Tuesday tip to talk a little bit more and demystify the whole idea of hyperfocal distance. It's not nearly as confusing as you think. And to just give you some of those give you a little bit of a foundation for those numbers.
That's good. I'm looking forward to learning from that one because that comes up occasionally from guests on our tours and they get a blank stare from me. Like,
yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Talk to Toby about that.
Well, to be completely honest, it's not something I've spent a whole lot of time thinking about until more recently. And we're doing these workshops and you have clients that show up and say, well, I want to figure out exactly where, how, and nail this so that tree is in focus, plus the stars off in the distance are in focus. And then you go, okay, we do need to think of hyperfocal distance. And then you pull out your little calculator, you start to talk about it. We usually don't have tape measures on the trip, but then you estimate the distance and you figure it out. So it is through, this kind of being challenged by people wanting to know the answers to these things. And another great example of that is in a minute, we're going to get into our Lightroom tips and tricks session. Jeremy has a question on how to straighten his horizon of this huge panorama he shot. And I had to go figure out, I did a little research. I've never had to straighten. I never had that much fall off in a panorama before. I thought, how will we straighten this? And I found a really easy, quick way. So
very cool.
Yeah. And also new pen content. David is sitting on a horse in Mongolia, a golden eagle on his arm, talking in a little bit more detail about that whole depth of field thing in the telephoto lenses. So that is a fantastic video to go watch if you haven't. It's very short. And David's on a horse. I know some people are upset because there's no video. There's no video of him getting on the horse. Well, it's out there. We'll post it at some point. It's fun. It's fun. So, all right. I think with all of that, let's dive into the Lightroom section of the show, which is one of our favorites. So I'm going to share the messy screen right here and get into Lightroom. Steve, can you see Lightroom here?
I can. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I see us and then I see Lightroom. Is that what I should be seeing?
Yeah, I think so. I think that takes, well, let's see. We could take ourselves off for now. It sounds like we need to keep ourselves in here
Yeah.
to have that audio. Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah,
That's
no
strange.
problem. I figured if I hung out backstage, it's kind of nice. This thing tells you like you're backstage. Nobody can see or hear you. And I'm like, Toby.
All right. So, what were you saying about professional? All right. So we're back to that. Okay. So we will have to stay on the stage. You are no longer backstage. You are center stage. So you already had some time to look at this. You saw me gesturing with the mouse. What I was saying is that we definitely have some curvature here in this big panorama. Pretty cool, lovely northern lights up in the sky above, reflection down below. How can we straighten this out? Well, the first place that I went was into the lens correction panel
Mm-hmm.
and custom, and I just clicked around a little bit. I went to Canon first. I know this was shot with a Nikon, but I went to Canon and said, hey, what if we lie and we said that this was shot with a really wide angle lens, like let's say like the 14? What happens? Nothing. But it does make the distortion slider active, and you can see here a minor change. So I played around with this for a few minutes, and really, you saw I tried the GoPro, you know, and which is very distorted. But again, even that, all we're really doing is kind of stretching out that sides there. This might fix it a little bit that way, or no, I don't think it's the same. So really wasn't coming up with anything. Guided transform, again, doesn't really help because that'll straighten lines, but it won't reduce a curve. Right, Steve? Is that fair to say that?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is a job for Photoshop. I right-clicked, I say edit in Photoshop, and we wait a moment for Photoshop to open. In Photoshop, you have filter, adaptive wide angle. So I click this. It loads it. It knows it's a panorama, and it's already fixed it. I mean, it looks better already, right? And then you could, if you wanted to, work on this little slider here, or it doesn't really show you anywhere except for over here. You've got this tool, add or edit a point. So if I click over here, and then I click way over here, you can see that it then straightens from those 2 points the horizon in between. And we could click here if we wanted to try to draw in another point. But I think really just that one was fine. Now,
awesome.
Sorry, Steve, what'd you say?
No, it looks awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we lost a little bit off the top. You can either crop. So I just hit OK. Now, once we're back into the full version of Photoshop here, you could either crop it or you could throw a little selection over it and content aware fill. It really depends on what that little bit you lost was. But let's see here. It should be able to fill this in with a couple more stars and a little bit of northern lights. And there we go. Now, a couple of things that do happen. We don't spend a whole lot of time critiquing in this section. As Steve talked about, that's really the pen option 2, and also posting in the Facebook group and the community forum. This is really to do Lightroom and Photoshop tips. But what we do run into here is we've lost that little bottom bit here. You had just a small amount of space. I wish that we could get that back. And I'm not sure, Steve, if you have any suggestions about what to do there.
Wait, this is the one that came in before correction?
Well, this is the corrected version.
Okay, yeah. Let's see the original, or the one that had the extra space down there.
There's the original.
Light, huh? I would just probably create a canvas at the bottom and then fill that in, and move things around as necessary. But it's very slight. At least on my screen, I'm having a hard time really seeing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I may consider removing a couple of the. I wouldn't take that out because it's a big enough piece of the rock. So yeah, I'd probably just create a 1/2-inch canvas at the bottom and fill that in.
Yeah. I think it would be worth it to go ahead and take this little corner out in this area here. And then, you've got another photographer over here. I would probably try to remove them. I don't necessarily need that you think you need to remove that shore over there.
Yeah, because you're not seeing the whole photographer, right? Those are like,
Yep.
the legs are cut off. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, as cool as it is for scale, I'm left wanting to just see, it looks like the person is crouched down. I'm left wanting to see the whole person.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, it's kind of becomes a toss up. I would probably remove them.
Yeah. And then, I mean, then I thought, well, you know, you could just even crop into here, but I do like this other bit of Aurora that you have some more of the red in this kind of ribbon. It stands out enough that it's worth it. And plus you took the time to shoot that wider panorama.
Yeah, and just the format of it. Panoramas are so dramatic, and they're such a fun thing to share because they do grab people's attention. Printing them can be a whole different ball game, because if you wanted to print this as like a 50-inch wide metal print or something, it's going to be super narrow, and it's just you're going to get it in the mail, and it's just not going to have that dramatic effect. Really, if you want to print a panorama, you have to print it absolutely massive, and you have to be willing to pay the money and the money to have it created and shipped. But as far as just sharing online and doing that, it has such a dramatic effect when you share a panorama. So I like the ratio.
Yeah, Jeremy, I wonder. I'm not quick enough with math off the top of my head. Did you shoot this with the camera in vertical orientation or horizontal orientation? One of our tips is frequently shoot vertical. Will give you a better aspect ratio so that the panorama isn't too skinny.
Yeah. Say what kind of lens he used?
It's the 24-70 for the Z6, the new Nikon Z 24-70.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely want to be shooting that vertical if you weren't, and then if you do a vertical panorama, you shoot those horizontal. Get the most real estate to work with at that point. And he did say that he hadn't done any edits aside from stitching it together. So he wanted to get the horizon straightened out, and then he was going to go and do the edits.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. I love, it's so rare. We go up to Fairbanks, we get fantastic Aurora, but it's rare that we get any kind of water reflection other than when we shoot in Iceland. And I just love that. I love the Aurora reflected in the water.
Yeah, and it looks like Jeremy said he shot it horizontal. So, yeah, my advice would be next time you shoot a panorama, turn your camera vertical, take a picture, go 4 or 5 to the right and overlap by a third. That will give you the most real estate to work with. And also probably would help avoid a curved horizon like that, at least minimize it.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Thanks, Jeremy, for submitting that. Vince is the king of rescuing from the trash bin. And he's got it right here in the name, so I'm not insulting. Just nobody.
I know. We always talk about that a lot of the times when he's submitted it's older pictures, and I thought about him because just a couple of days ago, it arrived from Bay Photo. I wish I had it out to show you guys, but it's wrapped in plastic until the painters are done. I got a canvas from Bay Photo, and it's from a picture I took in 2012. And it's the L train in Chicago, and it's just a really special picture. And we put this giant frame around it. It looks amazing. But it's one of those, that had I not shot it raw, I probably wouldn't have been able to blow it up the way that I did. But because I did, I just took it back to its original state and re-edited it with today's, editing techniques that I've learned over the years versus 2012. And it was a rescue from the trash bin, basically.
Nice.
What about Ben?
Yeah. That's something that came up on a trip not too long ago. We had a client that said, I don't plan to ever edit these pictures. I'm going to shoot only JPEG. And okay, we're not going to argue against that, but I'm going to argue against that a little bit. I will say that you might find yourself down the road with more time on your hands in front of a computer. Maybe you'll retire. Maybe you win the lottery. And you'll have these pictures and you'll be much more limited in what you can do with them if you shot JPEG. Whereas if you shot RAW, and as your skills increase, as the programs we use to edit them, they get better, you can really do some amazing stuff. So if you have any potential of that in your future, I'd also shoot the RAWs. Just shove them on some hard drive. It's not like they take up that much more room. But, you know, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to encourage you to shoot raw.
Well, we do get hung up on, and this all costs money now, but if you think about 5 years from now, the amount of space that we're talking about, I mean, memory is just getting cheaper and cheaper, and we're buying bigger and bigger memory banks to store our stuff in. And I understand it's sometimes, you know, we have the limitations today, but 5 years from now, you know, 100 megabit file seems like a ton now, but it'll probably seem like a small file in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to have as much detail as you can from today.
Yeah. And that kind of leads into this. I mean, Vince, you know, his post led us into this discussion, and now back to Vince. He said these were JPEGs, or this was a JPEG that he shot at the time for whatever reason. And do we have any tips for kind of rescuing old pictures? I'd say when you're editing a JPEG, less is more. Push it around as little as possible, because it does just kind of have a point of diminishing returns as you move those sliders in Lightroom. And it can very quickly look a little too processed, or you can suffer too many artifacts because it's thrown out information that just kind of starts to really show up in a negative way as you edit it.
Yeah, and one of the things you might find from older files is, and especially if it's a JPEG, is noise will start to creep up. So do yourself a favor and consider looking at the NIC collection. I know I've talked about that before, but the Define 2 tool for noise reduction is really good. Lightroom does a great job with noise reduction, in my opinion. Photoshop does a great job. But when it comes to cleaning up older files, I pretty much run all that stuff through NIC collection, and I really like it.
The other tip I have is be really selective in your edits. You know, local area adjustments. If you don't need to edit the whole thing, don't. So right now, I feel like I'd like the water to be a little bit darker. So I'm just brushing on a decrease in exposure just to get it stand out. Actually, the trees could be a little darker too, so I'll throw that on there as well, I think. Overall, I brought the exposure down just a tad. So before, after. So I feel like this makes the green just a little bit richer. And then I might even do a new brush locally down here. I might decrease the saturation a little bit. Or you could try adjusting the white balance and really blue it up. That's BLUE. And then you have this much more feeling of that kind of the water. I don't know. What do you think, Steve?
I like what you've done with the water. I like the water being a little bit bluer than it was. I think the sky is a little too salty for my taste. It's I would go up there and I'd probably decrease the clarity a bit to soften it, and it looks very dehazed. Now I don't know if that was a slider that was used or if it's just a result of past edits and the fact that it's a JPEG. But see where it goes really light and then gets really dark at the top of the screen. A lot of times you'll see that in graduated filters, but you'll also see it from the dehaze tool. So I'm not a big fan of that, just being that extreme. But that's, that might be very subjective, might be Vince's take on the sky, and that's absolutely fine. For me, it was just a little bit too crunchy, and it competed too much with the water. When it comes to this, I've talked about it on the show before, but you have these kind of rocky, sharp elements. I want the sky to be a little softer, so you don't have that competing, the clarity competing for your eye's attention.
Gotcha. And then if you really want to take the time, so I made that water bluer, and I also took Steve's advice and I painted on up there. I just kind of softened it a little bit, is erase from the rock. So the rocks really stand out differently from the water. Otherwise, they're going to turn blue. And yes, it's going to take some time to paint each of those, but that's what the zoom key is. Zoom in there, get to those individual rocks, and put some good music on and remove the paint from each of these so that they're a little bit less blue. And Vince, I think you were already on your way to a great kind of result from this image, a great rescue. And then with a little bit more work, I think it can really stand out. All right, let's move on to Tom. Tom submitted this beautiful Japanese garden here.
Oh, cool shot.
Yep. Yep, I like we've got this really nice focal point. I'm going to hit the crop tool just so we see the rule of thirds. I love this kind of third here. We've got this small, you know, I don't know what you call these things, little pagoda element, and then it kind of reaches out over here into the side of the thing. Now, there were some distracting elements in here, Tom. You sent us along the DNG, and you can also see that you cropped it in a little bit as well. But we've got this, I don't know what the heck that thing is there. And we've got a person, and we come back to this one, and those things are gone. Nice job.
Yeah, nice work.
What else would you suggest here, Steve?
I would. So here's the thing. I'm going to preface this by saying I don't know if this is a super popular place that a lot of people that maybe have visited Japan would recognize this spot. If so, then you can't do what I'm going to suggest you do. For me, I've never seen this spot before. If it's just, you know, kind of a place that a lot of people are not going to recognize, I would consider flipping this one around. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
I know that looks odd to everybody to begin with because we've been looking at it the other way. But if you saw this way for the first time, the consideration to flip it for me would not exist. So this just, to me, plays more naturally the way our eye likes to see left to right. You've got this foreground element that, boom, hits you right in the face as soon as you see it. It's totally cool. And then your eye just easily travels over to the right, and you see the structure over there on the right side, right third. And that's a very, very strong place to be visually for your story to kind of culminate. So I personally like it better flipped. I think the edits that Tom did were great. I would maybe leave a little bit more room on that right side. The reason is that structure is, even though there's breathing room, it appears to be getting very close to the edge because the structure is substantial enough. And then you've got that person over there. And once you notice that person, it looks like they're walking that direction. So very quickly, they're just going to walk off the frame. So I'd like to leave just a little bit more room for that. The only drawback to that is you introduce more of the glare on the water into the picture. So you'll be kind of careful of that. But it doesn't take much. I like what you did right there because then that, I would go back up where you had it.
Would you? Okay.
That branch kind of ends up in the right corner. I don't know if there's a way to cut the sky out completely unless you clone in some branches and stuff. It would be nice to.
Yeah.
It balances out the glare on the water, though. So
yeah, that's a good point. And just real quick, anybody missed flipping it? I see a comment in the chat. It's a right click on the image itself, transform, flip horizontal. It's right there for you in Lightroom. And I think that's nice. Again, let's go back to this one is the JPEG finished copy. So we've lost that little bit of extra over there. But otherwise, I think really nice. You can come down into the color panel, either the HSL or the color. And if you wanted to try to, pop this a little bit more, you could come into the saturation of that area and just raise it up a little bit. You could also play with the green. Maybe you wanted to go a little bit deeper green, or maybe you wanted to go a little bit more towards fall. So you can do that there as well. But otherwise, I think this is nicely done.
Okay, so Tom commented, he said it's called a lantern, and it was a painted telephone pole. So great on getting that out of there.
Yep.
And then he said it is a very popular spot. So I guess my question is, if it's not popular enough that you feel okay taking the telephone pole out, then you can feel okay flipping it around. I don't know, unless the telephone pole was totally temporary or something. But that's your call, Tom. If you like it better the other way, or you feel like you're going to show it to people and they're going to call you out on flipping it, and this scene doesn't even exist in this place, then by all means leave it the way it was. But we were talking a lot about this on the New England tour, and in fact, there's many times where I'm not able to get the leading line that I want, so I shoot a photograph with the intent, knowing that I'm going to flip it around later. And it's going to be a stronger composition. So, just some things to think about.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Tom. We're moving on. Pam Case has one from our Southwest Zion trip. And a couple things I want to do right off the bat. And you're probably with me here, Steve. Not a lot happening up there. We could come down all the way. That might be a little bit too tight. I'm going to come back up a little bit. That does leave the tricky job, though. Let's hit the eye to get rid of this. And that does leave the tricky job of trying to get rid of these very black, dark branches that are creeping in up here. These ones over here, they're fine. They're not cut off. They're not intersecting in any kind of distracting fashion, in my opinion. So I don't have any problems with those. They're actually kind of interesting, I think. But over here, it looks like little ant bits, little ant legs creeping into our frame.
Yeah, those definitely you'd want to remove them. I like where you went with the sky. When I first saw the shot, I kept thinking immediately this needs to be a horizontal, not a vertical shot, because it feels like you've got this massive scene and it's just being crammed, squeezed together. My imagery is the trash compactor in the original Star Wars, squeezing it on both sides. And when you go horizontal, it kind of spreads it out and it just allows you to take it in and sort of, breathe easy. You don't feel like you're being confined. And so I would come up from the bottom a little bit, like maybe an 8x10 sort of format horizontally. I don't know, that might be a little too far right there. So you might be closer to a square crop, but I do like it playing out as a horizontal image better than I do as a vertical. Now, when you do that, even as a vertical, I don't like where those branches are intersecting with the mountain. So I would definitely take the time to take those out.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned this on one of the last images, and we do talk about this all the time. Like, I understand that it might take some work and time to do that, but yeah, we have the ability to do that, and it takes a little work and time, but the more you put that time and work in, the more comfortable you get in doing that. And you can do it a little faster, but the key here isn't to do edits as quickly as possible. The key is to spend some time to edit the photograph the way you really want it to be. And we, just being professionals doing this for a living, have a chance to just see thousands and thousands and take thousands and thousands of photographs and work with different ways of editing. And we still have a long way to go. At least I do.
Mm-hmm.
But
we all do.
So it takes time and it takes effort, but that's okay. Don't tackle it like it's a big pain in the neck. Tackle it from the standpoint that this is awesome that we have software that enables us to be able to do this.
Yeah.
It used to be done in the darkroom, but it was all the dodging and burning and stuff. And boy, you think that this is tough with software. It's a lot tougher in the darkroom.
Yeah. So I just threw on 2 graduated filters. I think I over-exaggerated the one on the bottom a little bit, though. But I just wanted to bring up those shadows a little. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening down there. Some of it's a little on the busy side, but just bringing it up so that we really get all of the rich color that's in there. And then I threw one on the sky for the exact same reason that Steve was talking about with Vince. It just felt a little too salty. We use that term to say it just looks a little over processed, and I wanted to kind of dial it back. And I think, as Steve said, it creates a nice contrast. A little bit of a softer, gentler sky is a nice contrast against these amazing rock formations. Yeah, cool. And that's an iPhone shot. Hey, we don't discriminate, Pam.
Nope.
But I would love, Pam, for you to submit some more shots from your Z6. That would be awesome. Let's move on. Kevin Walk he shot a wedding the other weekend. Kevin, the pictures you've posted so far from that, I've just been fantastic. Really, really nice job. And this one, you notice, and I wonder if you guys can hear.
We had a very specific question about this photo.
Yeah.
I think I saw it in a post or something about purple on the shoulder.
That's right. We have just a little bit of a purple cast here. I think just mostly from being in the shade. And a couple of ways to deal with that. Can you guys hear Archer snoring? This is such a pro show. Let's see.
Yeah, I just heard a snort from him.
Yeah. First thing I would do is I'd come down in here to our color panel again. A few minutes ago, I used this to show making some colors pop a little bit, but you can also really use this to battle back against some colors. Let's see what just happens if we just pull saturation of purple down to nothing and up. Look at that. Look at that. It really is that color. You see it on her hands and, of course, across both shoulders. So we can bring it down. But what happens if you just drop it is then she's got much grayer skin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't want to just drop it. But let's decrease it a bit. Then let's come down to the luminance value where we can move to the right. This makes it much brighter. It kind of washes it out, makes it less noticeable. If we go down to dark again, you can see that. And then we can come up here to the hue. You don't have to do them in the same order I am, but this is just usually how I work on this. And we can just kind of look at what we do if we shift it this direction, more purple, or maybe a little bit more magenta. Right there. Do we have, is it better? They're still pretty kind of gray, aren't they?
Yeah, and Roy had made a comment in there about using the local adjustment tool to grab that particular purple.
Yeah, so sometimes it's not a single color. So let's reset this. Let's just reset each of these. And what I can do now is come into saturation. I can click the little donut. I can click on that corner there, and I can start to drag down. And notice that it's moving the purple and the blue both. So drag those back down. Now I can go down to the donut. Again, I'm going to try to click in the same kind of color area, and I'm going to move up. So it's, again, the blue and the purple. Yeah. And as far as the hue goes, similar.
I wonder where is she getting that purple tone on her skin from? What's it being reflected by? I mean,
yeah.
I guess ultimately what I'm getting at is I'm looking at this thinking a fill flash would have really done a nice job of evening a lot of that stuff out, so you don't get the deeper shadows.
I am assuming it's just a byproduct of being in the shade here and a little bit of mix of light of the shade and sun.
Yeah.
So let's see if we warm this here. There we go. So local area adjustment. I just did a little bit of brushing, maybe too much down the arm. We don't really need it down the arm because there's not really too much purple down there. But you can really see it start to come back. So I think local area adjustment, warm, and maybe red too a little bit, just to kind of battle that purple back a bit. So again, we're back to those local area adjustments, which do take a little bit more time. We could also, again, try to brighten to wash that out. And maybe a little warmer. So like that. And let's try down on the hand too real quick. There we go. Yeah, and even the dress, we're now getting brighter. You could actually throw a graduated filter over her. And you could also do the range mask where you limit it to the color so that it is more specific on that color ranges there. So you got a couple of different options, but I think what you're going to end up doing is going in and carefully brushing, making it a little bit. And then Brian, and I know Brian Scanlon, he mentioned this in the Facebook group as well. Nick has a filter that removes color casts. So that's another thing to try. I don't think I have
that's interesting. I've used color effects. I don't use it much because every time I've taken a photo in there, I haven't found something that I like, but I didn't know that they've got something in there for color cast. I'd like to try that out.
You know, I'm not going to be able to find it in time for the show. Oh, yeah, just make it black and white, Kevin. No.
Yeah, there you go.
It is. Remove color cast. What color? Wow. Does that seem like it really kind of fixed it? How do I zoom in this program? I don't use Nick. Let's just move that over there for a second and then back to there.
Skin tones look way better.
Yeah, they really do. Yeah. So, Brian, I think this is another great option.
Yeah.
You're just going to have to really figure out, and you can set control points as well, where you can really put it on those purpler color and then allow you to adjust that opacity of that cast in that section. Cool.
Nice.
And then of course save it. Okay. We got one more shot to talk about. Kevin was on our workshop, Steve, and he submitted this one. That's right. Yeah. We had this. We had chillier conditions than we typically have on our New England trip this past week, but the benefit of that was snow-capped peaks in the White Mountains, and that was pretty cool. And so we had this little middle of nowhere roadside stop that gave us this hill that still had a bit of color on it, plus some pines in the distance, plus this nice white snow cap way off in the distance. What do you think? What are some suggestions here, Steve?
Is this raw? Is this straight out of camera? Or?
This is straight out of camera. Nothing's happened to it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, just initial thoughts, what I would probably do is definitely bump up some vibrance and saturation, because everything that we saw on this tour, and this is where shooting raw kind of is a bummer, because it's like you need to edit it. It just looks muted compared to what I was seeing with my eye, and then I was shooting it knowing, okay, when I get home, I'm really going to crank up some vibrance and saturation on these colors, because that's what my eye was seeing when I was seeing it, or you get up close and it's just beautiful. So I would take that up like you're doing with a graduated filter, and I'd probably eliminate, from there, I'd go into Photoshop with this. I definitely eliminate that one silver birch tree branch right over there. I mean, it's beautiful, but the light is hitting it just right. It's just standing out, and it's taking my attention away from a bunch of other cool things that are going on. And I would also eliminate just those small little clouds that are surrounding where the snow is being blown off in the mountain. I'd take those out just to simplify it, and maybe reduce the sky just a little bit. But otherwise, that's about it. You don't have to do much to this. It's a cool shot. And what I love about this, and I remember talking to the guests when we were shooting this, is you've got 4 different layers to this photograph. It's kind of hard to see because the leaves are off of the foreground layer, but you've got the trees at the lower elevation where the wind has blown those leaves off. You've got the colorful trees, and then you've got the shadowy mountain, and then you've got the snowy mountain. So it's pretty cool to see all those. And this is why we pulled off the road. This wasn't even a scheduled stop. We just looked out and saw how cool it looked and had to shoot it.
Yeah. And so you notice when Steve first started talking, I was doing a global adjustment on saturation, and that really started to bring colors out in areas I didn't want to see. And so that's why I switched to the graduated filter, which really let me narrow it down to just this area. Now I'm throwing on here for just adding a little bit. You just make it a tiny bit brighter and a little bit more texture up there on the mountaintop for it to show up a little bit more. Yeah. Nice. Very nice, Kevin.
Now I can hear Archer.
Yeah, I think it's time for him to go. But all right, so we are, we're wrapped up that part. I know that gets a little long, but it is some of our favorite part of the whole show. I know Pen members, you really enjoy it. You get to send in these images.
So you're putting him to bed. I'm gonna
say goodbye.
Wake up, so I'm gonna take her out.
Okay. All right, you bring Ollie on, so it's a dog switch, and.
Say hi, Ollie. Say hi, little girl.
Oh, she's still cute and adorable. Oh my gosh. Hi, Ollie.
Hi.
Oh, thumbs up for 2-dog show. It's a 2-dog show.
Say hi, Ollie.
Okay. Why I figure out what we're talking about next. Okay. Let's jump in. Just a reminder, you're still trying to come up with a perfect camera for Steve. We're going to talk about one that I have in mind in a few minutes, but we want to hear from you, chat room. What's that?
Your suggestion's too expensive.
I actually don't even know the price off the top of my head. I'll have to pull it up. First thing first, Pixel 4 has arrived. Now, the Pixel 3, I think, really made some big waves with it having just one lens, but providing fantastic photography results. In most people's lists for last year, it was the best camera across the board in almost all categories without really any exception. Pixel 4 has come along. They've added one camera for 2. You've got the normal, and then you've got a telephoto at 2x, which, you know, when you look over at what iPhone has done this year with iPhone Pro with having 3 ultra wide, normal, telephoto, you're a little like, okay, 2. And one of those is telephoto, where this zoom, the digital zoom, I know that's not something that we like to say often as photographers, but the digital zoom in the Pixel 3 is fantastic. It's very, very, very good. And so it makes that 2x a little redundant. But I mean, I do like telephoto. I probably actually find more uses for telephoto in landscape than I would for an ultra wide. But it would be nice to have an ultra wide. And although I haven't directly compared it myself to the iPhone, I have seen a lot of comparisons. I think they're much more similar this year. I don't think the Pixel 4 has an edge except in a couple of cases. And I think the iPhone with its, what do they call that? The Fusion, Deep Fusion. I think some of its night stuff actually looks a little bit better than the Pixel 4. Now, I'm not super like, oh, we got to do a comparison between these two, because I think the number of people going back and forth between an Android and an iPhone system is very, very, very small. I think most of the people, they like to see that to say, I've got the best phone on the market. Doesn't matter if I'd actually ever switch to those other ones. It's just kind of that feeling. So it's not that important. You know, then the battery life, I've only been using it now for 2 days, 2.5 days. It's good. It's not amazing. I think the iPhone, you've got amazing battery life over there.
I didn't think we'd ever be talking about with iPhones, but they're finally getting it right. Like,
yeah.
With that, with the newest one, was that the 11?
Yep.
Yeah.
The 11 and the 11 Pro.
The 11 Pro. Yep. They've done a really, really great job with the battery. And I got to play around with that camera on the balloon trip. One of our participants, Lee, had that. He had just picked up that phone before the trip, and I was taking some pictures with it, and it's super impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, no phone is going to replace my professional equipment anytime soon, but that thing takes much better pictures than my iPhone 10. And I already was impressed with the camera on my iPhone 10.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's great. A couple other features. One, the face unlock really is pretty awesome. But the fact that they took away the fingerprint sensor, I was looking around for my iPhone, my Pixel 3. There are cases I think I can come up with fairly easily where when I hand it off to one of my kids or something like that, I don't want to give them my passcode, but I'd love to hand it off to them. Maybe I'm driving and they're like, Dad, can I see your phone? And I can just unlock it with my finger as I hand it back to them.
Well, I'll tell you, I traded in my iPhone 7 for my iPhone 10 a couple of years ago. I'm probably going to replace this phone next year because I'm reading all the rumors for the iPhone 12, and they're going to have, you know, a lot of the speed and the good cameras that the 11 has, but they're going to do finally a redesign. I really miss Touch ID over Face ID. There's two things that I still can't stand about this phone, and I know people say that they get used to it. I just never have. The notch, which is old news, I still can't stand it, and Face ID. I can't stand Face ID. I want my Touch ID back. My iPad has Touch ID. It's so much easier.
Yeah.
And Face ID is getting fast, but you always have to look at it. It just drives me crazy.
Yep. There's plenty of times where the phone is locked into its little holder on trips and it goes to sleep, and I can just reach with one finger and unlock it. I can't imagine how I'm going to like get my face in front of it, or I'm going to get it out of that holder, hold it in my face, put it back. Of course, you can always still put the pin in, but that's a whole lot different than a super fast the fingerprint reader on the Pixel 3 XL and 3 and 3A. It is fantastic. It is just so fast, so reliable. So I think very similar to what you're saying, Steve. So I'm disappointed in that.
Well, didn't Samsung introduce under the glass Touch ID?
Yep.
Or fingerprint reader? And, you know, I would rather that they designed it with just a small forehead at the top of the phone with all the cameras and all that stuff, and left that notch out of there. I don't need the screen to go all the way to the edge at the top. I think that style-wise, Samsung has killed it with their recent with their recent phones. And their latest model, I don't even know what they're called, probably Galaxy something. It's got 5G in it already. We're not there yet.
I didn't realize that. Huh.
Yeah, whether it's out or it's coming out, I don't know. I just see some of the rumors that pop across my screen. And I know the rumor is that the iPhone 12 is going to have 5G, but it's just, it can be done. You have under the glass fingerprint reader. You don't have a notch. You got a screen that goes all the way to the edges, and you've got 5G and a phone. Yeah. The only thing that's a bummer for me as an Apple guy is I'd have to go over to the Android operating system, and I just don't want to do that.
I know. You're invested in the ecosystem. I'm invested in Android. I think Android's a little bit better. Actually,
but it's unfamiliar, and I don't want a learning curve when it comes to my phone. I don't mind the camera or some software, but
I think they're both fantastic. I think iPhones have a bit more longevity in them as far as the speed and reliability of like staying snappy. I have had to wipe my iPhone or my Android 3 XL twice over the last year and a half that I've had it, or not even a year and a half, a year. Just because of slowdowns and things of that sort. And it's very easy to wipe. It's just boom. It's like, a half an hour, if that, while I'm watching TV to get all my apps back on and make it snappy again. But I don't know many people on the iPhones that have had to do that. So, but I do think the whole photo backup system is better. The Google Photos, I love that. I don't know anybody who loves the iCloud backup system. Everybody seems a little frustrated and confused by it.
Yeah, I mean, I like it for my file access. It's synced across all my devices and stuff. So that's kind of nice. But there's still a lot of things left to be desired. Andrew had talked about his 6S starting to crap out on me. Yeah, I mean, for sure at this point. And with iOS 13, I don't even think it's being supported on the 6S anymore. But what I'm really excited about, and we'll see when it comes out, is early 2020, there's talk that they're going to do the iPhone SE replacement. And they're just calling it the SE2, which has been rumored for quite a while. But they're saying it'll be the iPhone 8, which uses Touch ID, smaller form factor, but it's going to have the guts of the new 11 Pro with the A13 chip and some, maybe not the cameras, the 3 cameras, but it'll probably have a couple of them. So I'm excited to see what they end up doing with that. I might, mine when I bought it was a top of the line phone, but I wouldn't mind stepping back a couple of iterations to get Touch ID back.
I think it's important to say we'll get to the Sony A7R IV in a second, is that we always want these big, huge, noticeable improvements. We want these big jumps, this like revolutionary, oh my God, it does X, Y, and Z so much better than the last one. And I just don't think companies can continue to innovate at that level. And I also don't think being a little bit of an environmentalist, a little bit, because, part of my job is to peddle new crap. But the reality is we can't just continually buy the new thing every single year it comes out. So if you have a working phone that's decent, I don't see a reason. Android, sorry, when I try to spit too many things out at once, the Pixel 3 users, I don't see a compelling reason to move to the 4. There's nothing super exciting in here. The camera is better. I don't see a huge difference. I haven't tried out that astrophotography mode because I came back to Seattle, got the camera, got the phone, and it's just been raining nonstop this weekend, I do hope. But honestly, am I going to be shooting astro pictures that I really love with this, or is it more proof of concept? Ooh, look what my phone can do. So the swipe the next thing, and Roy points out, and this was in my notes as well, one of the things that I love about buying into the Pixel system is that they gave you full resolution backups of the pictures you took to Google Photos. Doesn't count against your storage limit. They've ended that with the Pixel 4. So
I didn't know they were doing that. But that's
with my Pixel 3, I can upload the highest resolution, the original quality images that I'm capturing until something like January 2022, or maybe it's January 2021. It's way in the future. But this camera, it counts against my storage unless I ask for it the slightly lower level. But you iPhone users with the newest iPhone do get the highest resolution backups because the iPhones use that new HEIC format. that I'm sure that's how you say it.
Hike.
That is small enough that it flies under Google's radar, basically. And if they did compress them, they actually end up being larger because of the way that file format works. So Tim is challenging me to a camera showdown between my Google and iPhone 11 Pro. Sounds good, Tim. What are you doing this weekend? Let's chat.
Aren't there like 27 YouTube videos out there about that right now?
Yeah, I know. But Tim, come on, let's make one. Let's hang out. Let's go up to that Gold Pond if it's not too snowy up there. That's the thing. I was like,
on Golden Pond.
Oh yeah, Golden Pond. Anyway, all right, let's move on past this. I think we talked. I mean, it's nice to have a really good camera with you because you always have it with you. But on this channel, I feel a little silly spending so much time talking about it because most of us do carry around a bigger camera. Speaking of bigger camera, A7R4. I have a full review coming, shot all of it. It's in Kaz's hands now, so it's up to him to edit. Hopefully, he's a little busy, so I'm not sure exactly when we'll see it. I said early on when the A7 IV came out that I would not be upgrading from my A7R3. I stand by that. At its current price, it just doesn't make much sense for me. There aren't revolutionary changes. There's nothing. The easy way to say it for me, and this is what I say at the end of the video, I'm spoiling it, but thank you all for watching it, this video so long. There's nothing in my A7R3 that's holding me back as a photographer. Its focusing speed is fast enough for everything I'm shooting. Its resolution is good enough for everything I'm shooting. It feels fine in the hand. The A7R4 does feel a lot better. They really did a nice job with it. Its resolution bump is nice, but I don't really need it. And I see a marked slowdown in my Lightroom. So although it's a better camera in just about every way, it's not better enough for me to say I need to upgrade from A7R3. If I was an A7R2 user, if I had been suffering through using the A7R2 with its bad ergonomics, its missing focus point joystick, its slower focusing system, absolutely no brainer of an upgrade. But overall, it's a very, very nice camera. I'll be talking more about the pixel shift independently soon. Steve, I got to show you some pictures off camera. We got to talk a little. I got to show you these pictures. I'm a little flummoxed by how poorly pixel shift actually works.
Oh,
so
geez. Flummoxed?
Flummoxed. I mean, at first glance, you're like, holy crap, look at this amazing thing it's stitched with the water. Everything is amazing. Then you zoom in and you compare it to a single individual shot. For those who don't know, pixel shift in this camera shoots 16 individual images, magically stitches them all together for a 200 and some odd megapixel image.
15 61 megapixel images. Each image is what, 120 megabytes?
Yeah. And Roy's pointing out that at that difference, you can start to see some differences between the Sony GM lenses and the Tamron. And yeah, that's true. That's why I shot with Sony GM lenses as well. And you take an individual image, you take one of the super high resolution images, and I shot 67 of these high resolution images on our fall workshop. And you put them together, and at 1:1, they look pretty similar. You go 1:2 on the individual shot, so you zoom in past 100%, and it looks better than the super high resolution at 1:1. That shouldn't be that way, should it? Consistently.
You know what you need?
What do I need, Steve?
You need a Hasselblad.
We should put it up against the Hasselblad. Steve, fly out here, please, with your Hasselblad, or stick it in one of those little padded mailing envelopes.
It's all about the size of the sensor, Toby.
Send it to me. Okay, we got to move on because this show's going along. I heard Chris came home. I don't have the eggs yet. This is going downhill quick. Quick other Sony news. I talked about this camera a little bit. We've got new lenses. Tamron has announced a 20 millimeter prime, a 24 millimeter, a 35. All of those are f2.8. They are small. They are lightweight. And spoiler.
Weather seal?
I'm not sure. Probably a little bit. I mean, the 20 millimeter f2.8 is $350.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I pre-ordered it.
I'm going to say, maybe some rain. Maybe. But that's great.
That's what plastic bags are for, taped over your lens. Come on. $350, and Tamron lenses are pretty darn sharp. So I'm excited about that. Also, the 70 to 180 f2.8. So it looks good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We have rumors of a Pro EOS R camera coming in March of 2020.
I, for one, am very excited to see that.
But that specific rumor about this pro level camera coming in 2020 sounds really fishy. Even the Canon rumor guys kind of tear it apart.
Really?
So yeah.
Oh, I haven't. I'm a few weeks out of the loop on
yeah.
that.
We've got all of these rumors of a higher level megapixel EOS R coming sometime next year. I think it'll be the later half of next year. I'll be surprised if it's sooner, and I'm not sure what else we'll see from them. But this early March doesn't sound right. But we do have new firmware that came out a couple weeks ago for the EOS R. I think it's 1.4, enhances eye detection, improved tracking. And one of my issues I talked about in the review of that camera was the autofocus is a little bit better than it actually makes it seem like if you watch the box dance around on people's eyeballs. So they have actually reduced the lag time between the actual autofocus and the AF frame display for images in the viewfinder or the LCD. So that's exciting. And plus, they're coming out with another firmware update that's going to give you 24 frames per second back in the EOS R. And the, what else had they taken it out of? The RP and the EOS M6 and the 90D. I don't want to get down that whole controversy, but it was just really disappointing that Canon did that for no technological reason. They weren't hampered by any technical difficulties.
Yeah.
It was simply to protect a higher market line.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah. And we've got a new Nikon APS-C mirrorless camera, the Z50, coming in at just about $1,000 for it, plus its 16 to 50 lens. It's a tiny little lens. It's a small package.
Mm-hmm.
This now means that Sony and Nikon, among the big players, have a lens mount that works across APS-C and full frame. It leaves the EOS R and the RP and the EOS M series kind of in a weird space where there is no, you can't move back and forth between those two. You can use adapters for some lenses across them, but not, it's confusing. So,
Did you hear the pricing that was announced on the new Sigma FP?
No, what is the pricing on that? Because that was another camera. It wasn't on my list to talk about, but let's mention that.
Well, Sigma has really just surprised people. First of all, the announcement of the FP was huge. Nobody saw that coming. And let's be honest, not many people are buying Sigma's hardware, aside from lenses. They're not buying their camera bodies. But it's the world's smallest full-frame mirrorless camera. And all the rumors were saying it was going to be priced somewhere between $3,000 and $3,400, $3,500. And I think it came in at like $1,800 or $1,899, which is, you know, a good chunk of change. But the thing is absolutely tiny. And their ad campaign, or, you know, the videos that they're showing and stuff have been just awesome, where they're attaching it to all these different lenses that are out there, and cinema lenses, and it shoots 4K, and I don't know how cropped it is, but that looks pretty amazing. $1,800, full frame, super small, and compatible with just, you know, tons of adapters and virtually every lens out there.
It's pretty nice.
I think they may finally have a camera body on their hands that they'll actually sell. That people will buy. Maybe.
Yeah, it's, you know, I'm sorry. I am apparently having technical difficulties in being able to share my screen now. It's kind of decided that it's not letting me do that. So that's a mark against you, StreamYard. But yeah, $21.99 for the Sigma F mirrorless camera with a 45mm lens. I don't know, Steve. Yeah, it's exciting. It is a tiny little mirrorless, but it just feels like a product that is going to be overlooked by most people most of the time.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm kind of holding out hope. I thought it was really cool that it was announced when it was announced at, you know, $3,000 plus. I thought, okay, well, it's going to be, people are going to be enamored by it. I'll watch a couple of YouTube videos, but I'm not in the market for that. But then when it came out at $1,800 or $1,900, I thought, wow, they might actually move some of these things.
I'm still trying to click around. There's a little blue button that says allow screen share, but it won't let me click it. So sorry. Maybe yeah.
That says share screen.
Yeah.
Its own button, but I'm not going to do that because I'll end up breaking this thing.
Okay. So Fuji X Pro 3. This is the camera I was teasing at the beginning that I think
it's $1,200, and then with a kit lens, it bumps it up to about $1,800.
Yeah.
That thing's awesome, though. Don't get me wrong. I saw the announcement, or I got an email or whatever. It was just announced. Was that today or yesterday?
Just I don't know. Yesterday. Yeah. Yesterday, I think.
No, I got super excited, and then I saw the price, and I'm like, dang it. Because I'm hoping to be in that like 500 to 1,000 range rather than that 1,000 to 1,500 range. I just don't want to go there.
So then my other, so all right, let's continue the quick discussion of the X Pro 3, because I think in a lot of ways it is a very interesting camera. It's basically got the XT3 sensor inside, a very retro looking rangefinder dial, rangefinder setup with an optical viewfinder or a digital viewfinder. You switch between the two using the same viewfinder. The screen that's on the back is more of this e-ink color display that shows you basically what you would see if you were shooting with a film camera, a little window that shows your ISO and what Fuji simulation you have. That's the same as if you put a roll of film in and you could see it's like the Fuji Velveta, right? That's how you say it.
Velveta.
And that's really interesting to actually see on the bigger screen what you're shooting. You have to flip it down.
Yeah.
And then it sticks out from the body. So this is really for kind of those people that love that idea of a slow, deliberate shooting experience with a very film feel to it.
Yeah, I thought that was brilliant. Having that thing closed with that little square back there, it looks exactly like my old film cameras where you got to, you tear off the box top and you put that in there so you know what film you've got in there. And the fact that they've got that on there and they show it like you've put film in the camera is absolutely brilliant. I thought that was totally cool. I would actually be very, very seriously looking at that if my budget took me there. Hoping to avoid that. But did I lose you?
I don't know. I tried to fix the screen sharing. So I think we're still here.
Yeah, you just came back. You went away for a minute.
Okay.
I was about to start clicking stuff, but I'm glad I didn't have to.
Whew. And I did fix the screen sharing. So here it is. What is annoying?
The silver one, though. Do they have a picture of the silver one? But then look at the Olympus next to it in the ad. Yeah, that silver one is cool looking.
Yeah, titanium, and it's got this new super Dura finish. So it really
sounds cool, and it
really does look pretty cool. And I wish they showed the back here in this example.
There was a lot of pictures of it. Look at that Olympus ad over to the right.
Yeah, that's it's so small though. DP Reviews hands-on preview video is just fantastic. Those guys crack me up. You got to go watch that if you haven't. They're just really entertaining plus educational. They find a lot of faults in it, and I think I agree with them on most of those, but it does look pretty nice. And the Olympus, that new Olympus, the EM5 Mark III is out now. That also looks quite nice. But geez, $1,200 for such.
You're in that. That's no lens.
Right.
Just like a 35mm prime or a 50mm prime is just the camera and one lens, and that's all I need.
What about you like Canon? You're used to Canon. You could go with the EOS M6 Mark II with kit lens for $1,099.
Yeah, I have been looking at that. It's hard for me because when I get into that $1,000 range, and the nice thing about something like this is it'll hold EF lenses. But the whole thing is, I don't want to take my big EF lenses. I want something inconspicuous and small that's easy to just, my wife could carry it around in her purse if we needed to. So,
I think here you go.
Price point, and I'm like, well, I'd rather get something much more retro.
Used Fuji X-T2.
That's a great suggestion, and I am leaning more towards used, because they're like the X-T2 cameras that have come out just in the last couple of years. Heck, you even go back 3 to 4 years, and they're still outstanding cameras. And I love that X-T2.
Yeah. All right. Let's use this to transition into the Q&A section as we wrap this show up. We have a couple other items in show notes that I want you to go take a look at. Those are linked right down below this, including, if you haven't seen it, it's been floating all over, but it's worth going to see, Wildlife Photographer of the Year. It's a beautiful site with some stunning wildlife photo pictures. We discussed it in our community group not too long ago. It's just some really great stuff in there. And also just the quick sad news that Imaging Resources is probably shutting down. I put them up there with DP Review. Those Imaging Resource has been a fantastic resource for many, many years. I know Dave personally, Dave Etchels, and many of the guys that write for him. So it's just kind of, he's ready to do something else. He's been doing it for 22 years. Just the briefest moment of silence for those guys, and I hope they all find a good places. They're going to land on their feet because they're fantastic. And it sounds like Dave's already got some exciting stuff lined up that's just very different. He's just going to go off and do something different for a while. So kudos to them for doing that. All right. Jope wants to know, what would I recommend, buying a Fuji X-T2 or X-T3? Been debating with myself for a couple of weeks now. Off the top of my head, I think you get better video features in the X-T3, and you get slightly better autofocus. What else? There's not much else that really jumps out at me that's a huge difference. Brian Scanlon, you might be a better resource here.
Yeah,
I really think
Scanlon's the one to answer that question. I
think the X
kind of depends on the budget, really. We were just talking about, and Brian says the X-T2 is fantastic. Virtually all the photos I submit from pen or from that, and he shot that for a number of years, and that is just an outstanding camera. If you're looking to save a few bucks, I think it's a great value. The X-T3 is going to end up running you more money just because it's brand new.
Yep. Brian saying, if you're going to shoot sports stuff or wildlife, I think the improved autofocus of the X-T3 is going to be helpful. But otherwise, really, that X-T2 is just a fantastic price point. I know another member of our community just wrote me. He is moving up from Olympus. He's getting a little tired of that smaller sensor that feels limiting in some situations. Wanted to move up to a little bit more. Found a great used price on an X-T2 in his neighborhood and picked it up, and he's very, very happy with it. So X-T2 leaves room in your budget for a nice lens or two, and that's really where you can see a difference in your photography.
Yeah. I do want to address Caleb's question. He must have signed in a little later than the intro when we had mentioned this. Caleb, we're talking about a really basic either rangefinder or old school camera with a prime lens for me to pick up that I can take to my daughter's wedding in Maui in January. I just want something really small. I've got an old GX7 Canon from years and years and years ago. And so I'm kind of looking for something to replace that and not have to, bring all my gear. But no, I am never leaving that Hasselblad. That is, in fact, I like that camera more now, a year and a half later, than I did the day I picked it up. So
nice.
My hussy.
Your hussy.
As my wife calls it.
Yeah. All right. I think that's a great place to wrap up the show. Brian just wonders out loud, why didn't Fuji make that X Pro 3 screen flip in on itself so that you could have the LCD out, or you could have that little e-inkish display?
That was, I don't know. That's a weird move.
Yeah.
I still think that when it comes to an articulating screen, why people just can't make it the same way Canon does.
Yeah.
That is the best
or Panasonic.
Yep.
No.
There's you don't see any of the parts. You know, I know with some of the Sonys and stuff, you pull that out and you just see hinges and screws and levers and stuff. The Canon's just all covered in plastic. Flip it to the side, spin it around, whatever you want. It's awesome.
Yeah, it is nice. Everybody else seems to resist that, and it is a little frustrating at times. Yeah. Okay.
Ursula, I could rent a camera. I've thought about that.
Yeah.
But I do want to replace that old Canon because the reality is my wife likes to use that. She's good at shooting my stuff, but she doesn't like to lug that stuff around. She'd like to have, you know, just a good manual control raw shooting camera. And so I may end up renting. I may end up not buying anything at all. But, you know, I'm open to suggestions like we've been talking about. So I appreciate all that.
Sounds good.
And Ollie does too, even though she's sleeping in my lap. She's so soggy. Oh, wake me up.
Big eyes. All right. Steve, thank you so much for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon, evening, and bringing Ollie along too.
Say hi. Ollie. Ollie.
No, teach her to say bye now, Steve. It's bye.
Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Chat room, thank you for hanging out with us. If you haven't already, give this show a quick thumbs up. And if you're watching this and you're not a Pen member, you want to be able to submit images in the future, you want to be part of a fantastic community, photorec.tv/pen is where you can find out all of that information and so much more. And if you're about to build a website, one of the ways that you can really support what I do here on this channel is by going to squarespace.com/photorectv. You will save 10% off your first purchase and you can support me in this channel. Thank you, Squarespace, for your support of what we do here. Everybody, until next week, as far as I know, talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Yep. See ya. Say bye-bye.